China, it goes back thousands of years. The great emperor Shen Nung in 2700 BC discovered cannabis for medical uses and talked about it for a variety of elements that we're only rediscovering in this time. And Taoist priests would use cannabis for mystical purposes. There's a 2,500-year-old quatrain. First a yin, then a yang. No one knows what I do. Jade buds of holy hemp for the one that lives apart. It's kind of like life has its ups and downs, but cannabis keeps me rolling on through, steady and clean, you know. And in Assyria and Babylonia, we have numerous references to cannabis uses in ointments and incense. The great Assyrian king Ashurbanipal had copies of hashish recipes that were thought to be from thousands of years even before his time, and this was an important temple incense. It was also used in topical ointments to open one's ear for God in the Assyrian literature. And this is interesting because there are these Hebrew references that a number of scholars are pointing to, and if you want to find out more about this, you should check out my YouTube film, Cannabosum, the hidden story of cannabis in the Old Testament, that has people like Dr. Ethan Russo and Professor Carl Ruck explaining this. There are these Hebrew references to Cannabosum that a number of scholars are now saying are references to cannabis. And this was an important ingredient in what was known as the holy anointing oil and temple incenses used in Judaism. And in the references, Moses, who first speaks to the Lord in flames of fire from within a burning bush, is commanded to make this holy anointing oil with about 9 pounds of this cannabosum mixed with myrrh, cinnamon, and cassia, and put into a holy anointing oil. And he would place some of this oil on the altar of incense, kind of like how people dab nowadays, and he would speak to the Lord in the pillar of smoke, and he'd question, and the answers would come back to him, you know. And so this is a radical revision of what was taking place, you know, plant-based shamanism in the Bible and other religions. In India, it has been used like for thousands of years. Shiva, the oldest continually worshipped God on earth, whose worship goes back to the Stone Age, is the Lord of cannabis. To partake of cannabis is to partake of Lord Shiva himself, you know. And in Persia, the Zoroastrian religion deeply relied on cannabis for its revelations. It was known as mang and prepared with wine and other beverages and consumed. And they would take very, very potent, more than smoking it, they would ingest these powerful extracts and go into a sleep, and they would come back with their visions. And this formed the basis for much of their religious literature. And recently they found in China a 2,700-year-old mummy, a Caucasian mummy in central China. And they found over 2 pounds of perfectly preserved cannabis, female cannabis buds. And so that culture there, which existed in China from 2000 to 500 BC, was another cannabis-using culture. And from there it spread out into Afghanistan. They found a 4,000-year-old temple, size of a football field. And half of that temple was dedicated to the preparation of a sacred beverage, the Heoma. And they found archaeological evidence showing hemp seeds and tested remnants from some of the pots and things like that, and found evidence of THC, showing that this sacred beverage, the Heoma, that became known as Soma in India, which is the basis of the Persian and Indian religions, was actually this cannabis preparation. So all over the world, you know, in Africa, the Pygmies say they have been using cannabis since the dawn of time, and that God gave the Pygmies hemp so they would be healthy and happy, you know. Carl Sagan speculates that it was likely our first cultivated crop, and that seems very likely considering this very ancient history. And culture itself grew out of agriculture. So as we've cultivated this plant through history, it's cultivated us, you know. And I've been talking about religions and stuff like that, but I want you to know that there's more healing power in this plant than any church, synagogue, temple, mosque, anything like that, any book or anything like that. There's more actual healing power in this plant. And there's more community power in this plant as well than any governments that put us in jail for using it. And you know, when you think about it, when we were hungry, with the protein of its seed, this plant fed us with the rich omega oils. When we were naked, with the fibers of its cloth, cannabis being the first woven cloth, this plant dressed us. When it came time to see the world, this plant provided the sails for the ships and the caulking for the boats. When it came time to write down what we'd seen, it provided the paper for doing it, you know. And when our childs were shaken from epilepsy, when our parents were going blind from glaucoma and dying from cancer, it provided the medicine to heal us. And this plant, we can heal our planet with hemp fuel, hemp paper instead of cutting down our forests. We can heal our bodies, and we can heal our soul. And in this time, in this age, we have the opportunity for a paradigm-shifting culture to move away from the petrochemical, petroleum-based industries of our governments and the corporations that run them, and to go back to that natural world and go back and reestablish our relationship with this natural healing plant, and to gather hand in hand around this once and future life. And I believe Oregon has the opportunity here to really push that into the next level if they pass this legalization. Legalization in the United States will be unstoppable if you pass this law. So you got to do whatever you can do, and you got to get everybody you know to register and vote and make this thing happen. God bless you all. Make way for the tree of life, man.
Let's make it happen! Woo! The healing of the nation.
Woo!